All right, gang, welcome back to another beautiful bonus episode from the Script Heroes. As you can see today, we have another tier list going on, and we are ranking iconic comic book deaths from Superman to Batman to Gwen Stacy to Ampersand from Y the Last Man. We're gonna run through them all, give you the lowdown, and then tell you whether we think that they ascended to a higher plane through how good their death was, whether they died a hero, if we're going to the funeral, if we're just sending flowers, if we died of boredom, or if we're gonna piss on their grave. Uh,
If you are listening to the audio version of this and you're very confused by what just came out of Katie's mouth, we're doing a tier list like we did for the Rebirth video. What Katie just read out are the tiers. We have 6 tiers from Ascended down to Pissed on Their Grave.
mhm.
Yeah.
That is right. And you know what? No need to dilly-dally. Let's jump right into it with the death of Superman.
Where else could we start?
Where else could we start? All right, with Superman number 75. Doomsday has torn apart Metropolis and defeated the JLA. The only thing left keeping him from destroying the world is Superman. But the Man of Steel has met his match with this prehistoric Kryptonian. As citizens of Metropolis, as well as the world at large, thanks to Cat Grant and her chopper, look on, Superman trades heavy blows with his foe, while also ensuring the safety of the Earthlings he has sworn to protect. In a final trade, Superman and Doomsday strike each other down. This is the death of Superman.
Yeah, okay. This is a very interesting one to tackle. I don't know if you're going to feel the same way, Katie. It's a little slow. Of course, we read the one issue for this. I think we both read Death of Superman before, but it happens across like 8 issues. Like, it is a long fight that then culminates in this death. This issue, actually, though, doesn't have quite as big a pacing problem as the thing as a whole does, because
I thought it was.
he does act. Yeah, I thought this was great action, good visuals, still too many captions. Like, that is my thing with the Death of Superman. Like, the captions are really grating. But I'm going to put this out at the very first one. I was kind of thinking about these in kind of a couple different ways, which was, number one, how is, kind of the story as a whole,
Yeah.
Number two, the like impact moment of the death, like the actual killing blow.
Yeah, that's a big one.
And then number three, like the ramifications and like, what it does for the story. This is one that I think has a pretty good impact moment. The like after Fallout is actually really cool. You have the obviously cape on the like cape flag that is kind of iconic.
And Lois holding the giant Superman body.
Yeah. And it is like, I feel like this is the standard.
It really is.
And like the story that comes out of it is really, really cool with like, Reign of the Superman and everything. So overall, like this feels like a good standard bearer for me. I don't know how you feel, but that's how I'm feeling. Like good, not top tier, but pretty good.
Here's the thing. I think that this specific issue, it's been literally like 5 years since I've touched Death of Superman. And this issue, like you said, the pacing was so much better. There's so many like really exciting action sequences, and knowing what's coming is so exciting. Yeah, I think they do a really good job with Superman's death here. I think it's great that when you have a character like Superman, it's not that any given day, I think he and Doomsday going one-on-one could go in either direction. But you have the added benefit of, like, oh, he needs to save the chopper that's going down. He needs to get people out of the way. But it's not that he dies while doing that. It just adds that kind of extra dimension to the fight that makes it really feel like Superman's fighting on his back foot. And I think that it's a great way to kill the most powerful person in your universe. So yeah, I the most powerful superhero on your team, whatever you're gonna call it. But yeah, I would certainly go to Superman's funeral.
I was gonna push Die to Hero.
You know, like what? I accept that.
It's iconic. It's the it's the really superhero is. Death.
Yeah, it really, really is, and I am here for that. Superman did in fact, hot take, die a hero.
Yes, yes. And now we'll go from like the, the superhero death to like the supporting character death,
Yeah.
We're going to be talking about Gwen Stacy's death. She died in Amazing Spider-Man issue 121, the night that Gwen Stacy died. With Harry Osborn in a bad state, falling into clinical psychosis, Norman Osborn snaps. He remembers his former identity of Green Goblin and goes after Spider-Man. He finds Gwen Stacy instead, and when Peter comes to confront him, the pair get into a fight. Green Goblin knocks her off a bridge, and Spider-Man is able to snare her with a web, but it's too late, and her neck snaps from the momentum. It's not until Peter has Gwen back in his arms that he realizes he didn't save her.
Now, I've never read The Death of Gwen Stacy
Me neither.
before this. Yeah, there were a lot of first-time deaths for me here, where it's like things that I know about but had never read. I had never, I guess I had never even like seen the panels of Peter like so optimistically pulling her back up onto the bridge. Like, what other awesome superhero boyfriend could do this? I saved you, babe. And I'm just like, oh no.
Yeah.
Oh no, and then that realization afterwards, it was such a good like death and follow of death.
Yeah.
The rest of the issue was a little buck wild, I'm not gonna lie. Like
a little bit.
It felt like a lot of it was just kind of coming from all directions at you, and it escalated so quickly in a way that that I wasn't like the biggest fan of. So I think the lead up to the death I wasn't a big fan of, which I think is probably a symptom of it being the death of someone who's not able to fight back. Like it's not the hero dying, it's and she's essentially helpless in the situation. But her death and the follow of her death is just so good. It's so heart-wrenching.
Yeah. Hitting on like
this one died a hero for me.
Oh yeah, man, yeah. I'm gonna be, I think, right around there with you. I like hitting on those things. Like, I think you're right. The build-up isn't amazing. I still like quite enjoyed the issue as a whole. Like, compared to a lot of Stan Lee stuff that I wrote, that I read, like I think I liked his writing a lot more here from like a literal like caption writing and dialogue writing standpoint.
Because that man
the
loves
moment of impact is maybe one of the best moment of impacts in a comic book death. It's so good. That little snap by the neck, like
snap.
It's just so good. And then the follow-up is just brutal. Like, so brutal. Like, I was between Ascended and Die to Hero, so I'm happy to put it in Die to Hero if that's where you're at. But yeah, it's brutal.
Yeah, if I was,
I think it's better than Superman from like an actual, totality standpoint.
I could go with that. Yeah, I just think that if it was built up to more before the death, I would have been more on board with it. But that's fair. Still incredibly, incredibly good.
Yeah.
Well, chugging right along with Marvel deaths, we have Elektra in Daredevil number 181. Yes. Bullseye has escaped from prison, and he is out for vengeance against Daredevil, the man who put him there. But first, he needs to take his place as New York's most feared assassin, back from Elektra. After stalking her own assassination target to find her, Bullseye confronts the assassin and the pair duel. Bullseye slits her throat, then stabs her in the gut, leaving just enough life in her to let her die in Matt's arms.
Yeah, I've read this before, as you know, I do love this run. Honestly, saying Bullseye slits her throat is a little bit of an understatement, as he throws a freaking playing cart into her throat, and it is brutal.
It is.
My main thing here, because I do really like this, I think this has another like fantastic impact moment, like him driving like through her stomach, and you see like the costume peak. So good. My main issue here is I just wish the fight scene was a little bit longer leading up to it.
Mm-hmm.
But other than that, I quite like this. I think this is a solid death, is where I land.
No, I agree about the length of it, especially because it's like a double-sized issue. They had the space to do it. They dedicate a lot of time to Bullseye's build-up. But the problem with that is also that it's Bullseye's build-up as he's like fantasized about killing Daredevil.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of good stuff there. And like if this was the death of Daredevil, I think it would have been just god tier. but
Yeah.
she's almost like a side quest for him, which one is rough because that means that less of the actual page space is dedicated to it. But it's also rough because it's like, oh, I feel like she was taken out way too easily.
Yeah, fight scene, like I would have liked her to put up a little bit bigger of a fight and a longer fight scene. I do think it works really well to build up Bullseye into like just looking unstoppable. So yeah, overall I land, like I think story plays really, really good. The actual moment of impact really good, but it's just that build. So I think I'd go to Elektra's funeral is how I feel.
I will join you there. We will go to her funeral.
But we are going to stick with Marvel here as we talk about the death
we kill a third Marvel woman in a row.
Yeah. As we talk about the death of Jean Grey in New X-Men 150, at the culmination of an epic battle between the X-Men and Xorn/Magneto. In Xorn's final moments, he attacks Jean with a lethal electromagnetic pulse. Even with the Phoenix's power, this is too much for Jean, who succumbs to her injuries in Cyclops' arms. I have very little context here, as I'm sure you do too.
Yes.
So interested to hear how you felt.
I was shocked though that we did the because we were just kind of filling this in as we were deciding whose death to put in. I was shocked that we did this death instead of her earlier death.
Yeah,
which I think
we'll get to it. The reason we didn't do her earlier death, at least the reason that I this was the one that I landed on, is because that it's my pet peeve of, and there's ones on here from Katie putting them on here that are this pet peeve of she comes back in the same issue, and that's not.
That's fair. We'll jump into it.
I don't like that. That's not a death. If you come back in the same issue, not a death.
But yeah, this agreed that I had very little context, but I thought that this was one of the. It certainly we'll get to a real bad one in just a few, but this was one of the worst like ways of death.
Fully agree.
And like the worst like emotional death, where it's like, oh my god, because Magneto sends this electromagnetic pulse through her, so she's laying there just dying from this horrible seizure that's happening, and it's so rough as she's trying to talk to Scott, and the Phoenix is also trying to. Oh my god, it was so emotionally wrought. I was choked up reading it. Like this was a very hard hitting death. Just because of the way that it played out, because there wasn't like that quote unquote impact moment because it was so drawn out. But
yeah,
it was very good, but I felt like I was maybe not as like blown, like it didn't feel like a climactic death, almost like it was emotional. But it wasn't climactic. I
don't know if I'm gonna agree with you that it's like very good, because I really dislike the whole like it's absolutely tell don't show it, like he literally just tells her like I gave you an electromagnetic pulse that's gonna like kill you, and I was like, what, you did? Like you touched her wrist, like that's all we got in terms of visual,
I mean, that is fair.
So that was real rough from me, and I didn't love that. I liked a lot of the dialogue kind of in the like build up to it, but yeah, I kind of found death a little bit convoluted because of that, because it's like, oh no, you're just gonna die now, and it's like, oh okay, now you're gonna die. So this is a rough one to rate for me, because I feel like the impact moment is so important in like a visual medium like this, and I do like the art in general for this issue and this bit a lot, but the impact isn't there, which makes it feel like I don't really know when I'm supposed to feel the death, so I don't know. I was kind of thinking died of boredom, not gonna lie.
Oh, I was gonna send flowers just because I think that the way that it plays out between her and Scott is very like very well done in the emotional.
That's fair. I'll acquiesce to you on that if you want to throw it in sending flowers.
We'll send some flowers to Phoenix.
Yeah.
Or I guess to Scott. Though I'm sure she's come back since then.
Now we have our back-to-back Crisis on Infinite Earths books.
We sure do. Starting with, in Crisis on Infinite Earths number 7, The Death of Supergirl. As the heroes of 5 Earths finally learn the truth about the Anti-Monitor and journey to his universe, they are prepared to sacrifice what they must to save all of their homes and infinite future universes. No one more so than Superman, the paragon of heroic deeds. However, after he is struck by the Anti-Monitor and left helpless in the fight, it is Supergirl whose mettle and strength allow her to save the team and her cousin, but not without sacrifice. Wounded and defeated, the Anti-Monitor expels a devastating burst of energy that downs Supergirl, leaving her only the strength to, one last time, inspire the heroic spirit in her fellow guardians of the multiverse.
You okay there, Katie?
Look, I really love Supergirl's death. I'm not even going to bury the lead here. Your face is making me think that you don't, and I'm very excited to hear your thoughts.
I love the art. I love George Perez's art, and it's so good. I find the writing of it to be very melodramatic.
Well, that's me. I am melodramatic.
Like, it's hard for me to really connect when they're like, you know, so bombastically, you know, like talking about, like, it's just, I don't know. The dialogue doesn't quite land for me here. I thought it was decent. Like, I was probably going to throw either, like, sending flowers or going to the funeral. The visual of Superman holding her is maybe the most iconic death visual in comics. So, like, that's maybe some bonus points, but...
Yeah. What gets me specifically about Supergirl's death is the build up to it throughout the fight. The fact that she hears Kal scream because Anti-Monitor bops him, and we see how even with like her super speed and shit, she's moving through the space trying to get to him. And when she arrives, I love that she is able to just like, she is throwing everything she has at him. Okay, here's what will become apparent. I love when someone succeeds but still loses, you know?
Yeah.
Like, she drives the Anti-Monitor away. Like, going essentially at that point 1v1 with him. Like, Dr. Light was shouting shit, but wasn't really helping.
Yeah. Dr. Light, though, I think was, like, the biggest part to me where I was like, you were being so melodramatic.
Yeah,
like,
she did not have great dialogue. And no. I think that this is one of the few instances where the after her death is my least favorite part. Because I love the build up to it and I love the process of it. I really like the impact of it. Like, it's got that kind of I don't know how to say it other than like the Slade electrocuting the Teen Titans look, where like your entire body goes one color as you're hit by a beam. It's got
that's
like
a good
that
way to
big, like,
that's a good poll to like illustrate people. Yeah.
It's got that great moment, and I am also just such a sucker for the way that she specifically speaks after and before, where she's talking about how like she admires Kal so much and he's like so good and inspiring, and then it's like, you're the one inspiring them, Kara, and it makes me emotional. I would say either Die to Hero or Go to the Funeral.
I don't think I can justify putting it in Die to Hero with those. I don't think it's at that level. We
can throw it and go into a funeral.
Yeah.
How would you feel about putting it above Elektra?
We can put it above Elektra.
Okay.
Mainly because of how iconic that George Perez,
it's
visual
so good.
Is.
I also love the idea of seeing that right next to the words "going to the funeral."
Yeah. So let's talk about Flash in literally the very next issue, Crisis on Infinite Earths, number 8. After freeing himself from his imprisonment by the Anti-Monitor, Flash uses his speed to destroy the antimatter cannon, threatening the remaining worlds of the multiverse. But the effort and speed cause Barry to disintegrate in his own suit.
I am a Barry Allen stan. We know this. My hot take, I'm not like the biggest fan of the process of his death in this. Like, visually,
really?
I love the way it looks. Like
I love it.
as he's like going gaunt in his suit, that's amazing. I think it's just, it's so, he doesn't really get to like say goodbye to anyone, and
sometimes though that's not like, I feel like there's something a little annoying in comics when it's like, no, you always are going to be just alive enough to give somebody a speech, like there's something so brutal about this.
It's not just that he's not able to say goodbye to anyone. It's that there's nobody there to feel the impact of his death when it happens.
I felt the impact of his death when it happened.
Which is fair, which is so fair. It's just like the again, the art of it, the panels of it, so good. The like concept of it, so good. It's just that in the moment it doesn't like super hit me in like the heartstrings.
This might be one of our biggest disagreements right here. This is gonna be tough. Like, I think this is one of the best deaths. Like, I love this death so much.
Go on, speak your piece.
It's just like the visual of it is amazing. Like, this idea that he's still trapped here, but he's still gonna be able to he's like he's in the Cord universe, you know, like the antimatter prison, essentially. So like he can't reach anybody, but he's still gonna make a difference. His like dialogue as he's disintegrating is really, really good. I love it so much. It feels like such a hero's death, you know, going out, making it's literally what you said, where like he succeeds, but he still loses.
Yes, that is
so good.
Yeah. Well, I was going to send flowers.
I thought it was Ascendant. I think this is so good.
I will. Here's the thing. It is so iconic. I will happily compromise on Die to Hero.
Okay. I'll put it at the bottom of Die to Hero.
Okay.
So that we're, you know.
Rad.
But yeah, I think it's so ridiculously good. But we will move on.
Yes, to our first indie death.
Yes.
Huge trigger warning for this one that's coming from The Walking Dead and does include child.
Yeah, actually,
death.
just gonna throw in here that maybe, you know, and people will have already heard if we do this. Retroactively, we should probably throw a bunch of spoiler warnings at the beginning of this video.
I mean, I would look if you've made
but you know, people might not know
video.
what deaths we're talking about. Maybe naming like the books, especially in an indie sense. Walking Dead spoilers, you know, obviously about to come right now.
Yeah.
But we'll retroactively do stuff. So hopefully,
we'll throw something on there.
Yeah, this is obnoxious to people
The
who know.
Walking Dead number 48, and we are going to zero in on the death of Laurie and Judith. The prison has been breached by the citizens of Woodbury and the governor, and the Grimes family makes their escape. It's not the biters, but the humans who cause horrible destruction. As they run from the gunfire, Laurie is shot. Horribly, she is also carrying her newborn baby Judith, who dies from the gunshot as well. This issue is also the death of the governor, who Lily, the woman who shot Laurie, kills after realizing that she killed the baby, as well as Herschel, Alice, and a few others. Whose names I don't know because I've only read the first 2 volumes.
Couple other,
Herschel's child, Herschel's son or something.
Yeah, there's a lot of the Herschel clan.
There's a lot of deaths in this bad boy.
And it's actually like immediately following the death of another important character in the issue before, but we don't need to talk about that. So, but yeah, I mentioned like I just want to hit this because people actually won't have seen this yet because this will be this coming Wednesday. I mentioned this coming Wednesday that there were 2 comic book moments that have made me tear up in my life. This is one of them, and it's not actually the death; it is Rick telling Carl not to look back when they're on that hill. Like, it's so good. It's so brutal and so good. Everything here, like Rick starting to cry as he starts running forward. You know, just keep going, Carl. Then when they get to the top of the hill, and like Carl not realizing that the family's dead yet because Rick's like protected him through pushing him, and then like, where's Mom? Where's Judy? Don't look back, Carl. Like, it's just,
it's insane. Y'all have watched me have my first exposure to The Walking Dead. If you've been watching our bonus episodes, Jay did not give me a heads up that Judith was a baby.
Yeah,
I don't know who the fuck Judith was.
In my head, it was obvious. I don't know why, because you have no context.
The absolute just gobsmacked reaction I had when I saw this. Because I was like, oh shit, Rick needs to go back for the baby. Oh shit, no. Rick, what are you doing? You have to go back for the baby. And then Lily, the woman who shot Laurie, she realizes what she did, and I'm like, oh shit.
Yeah.
It was an insane moment of realization.
And it's really the moment when you're reading the whole thing through, you're like, oh no, this book's just gonna do anything. Like, nothing is off limits anymore once you've killed not just a baby, but the baby of your main character. Like, you are that into, like, no, anything can happen. So I think both from a build-up,
absurd.
Impact, story ramifications, like, this is just amazing.
It really is. Absolutely buck wild. Where would you slot this?
I'd throw it in Ascended, I think.
I'll throw it in Ascended too.
I think it's so ridiculously good. But I'm just a huge Walking Dead fan. Dude, so we're gonna stick with Walking Dead.
Oh my gosh.
We're gonna stick with Walking Dead to maybe jump to the most famous Walking Dead death, which is Glenn in issue 100. Negan knows how to keep a group in check in the apocalypse. He needs to send a message that anyone can die when his orders aren't followed. Glenn is the unfortunate receiver of this message, as his head is bashed in with a seal, a barbed wire-covered baseball bat that is Negan's signature weapon.
I am very excited to talk about this death because it's bringing up something that hasn't come up in any of our other ones yet, which is when the person doing the killing is so good. Like,
yes.
With most of these other deaths, it's like, the Anti-Monitor, he's gonna kill because he's the Anti-Monitor. With Bullseye, I guess we got it a little bit, but this is the first time where, like, to just say first, Glenn, bummer. I like him a lot. I am sad that he is dead. But I want to focus in on Negan, because it is brutal. It is so, like, captivating in its brutality. It's insane to watch. And fucking, I'm so sorry, I'm forgetting his name. Allred? Who's the man who replaced Tony Moore?
Oh, yeah, Charlie Adlard. I thought you were talking about a character for a second, and I was like, I was like, who the hell are you talking about?
I would not feel bad about forgetting a character's name.
Gotcha,
I do feel
Charlie
bad
Adlard.
about forgetting such an iconic creator's name. That man needs help. Like, watching...
This is maybe the scene I should always point to when I tell people that I like Adlard's art more than Tony Moore's, because, like, it's so ridiculously good.
It's disgusting. Like... We talked about in our Walking Dead episode how effective it is having the grayscale when it comes to gore, because you're not relying on those, like, viscera bloody things.
Yeah.
It's absurd here because Negan crushes in Glenn's head first, and then he keeps talking, and like both of them keep talking. Like, Negan is doing his, like, stupid Negan thing and just prattling and being a weirdo. He calls Lucille a vampire bat, which I thought was very funny. I understand why the group didn't. But Glenn also keeps, like, you can see his concaved head and his eyeball falling out of his fucking skull, and he's still just like, Maggie, and I'm like, shut up, you're making it worse. It was horrifying.
Yeah. It's, oh my god, it's one of my favorite, if not my favorite, death in comics. I think it sets, like, because this is Negan's introduction. You've never seen Negan before at this point. I figure that's probably obvious from reading it, but just to, like, clarify that, this is the first time you ever see this character.
Knowledge.
Yeah. First time you ever see this character. Personality's there immediately. I think just the build to it, too, of, like, okay, he's going through and he's saying what characters it can't be. So, like, you're trying to figure out, okay, who, and then he just says that it can't be any of them. And then you're like, oh, wait, so who is it going to be? Ends up being, obviously, Glenn, and it's just brutal. Yeah, and if you're watching a visual one, you can see the image there of what is left after. And it's just...
It's so
I love it, man. It's such a good death of just a character who people love, so it feels impactful. And like you said, like, Negan is the real star of the show, which is just such a cool way to do it. I love this death.
Are we putting both Walking Dead deaths up in
I think so. I mean, it's The Walking Dead's whole thing.
Yeah, exactly. The book is based around people dying.
I think this is better. I think this is... Because we're talking about the death stuff.
Better.
Yeah, I think this is just... This might just be my favorite death in all of comics. Like, it is so good.
Amazing. It really is just amazing.
Yeah.
But now we're moving on to another little set. Are we ready for the Robin Rapid round?
I just want to make it clear.
Gonna fight me.
Yeah, I disagreed with two of these being in the video because they're not deaths.
Which is fair. I just thought it would be fun to have all of them, except for Steph. Sorry, Steph.
Yeah, obviously one of these is like a legit most iconic death, like of all time.
I would say
level.
that Damien's is also like a death.
It's a death. It's not quite up there, and then we have the two that are just not deaths, especially Tim's, which is like Dick's is a literal death, but not really a death. Tim is not a death in any definition of the word.
No, we'll get to it. I just thought it would be fun to have all of the boys.
We're gonna do all of them.
We love all the boys.
Yeah.
So Jason fucking Todd.
Yes.
Batman. We put 428. He
really dies in
427 as well.
Yeah.
Bruce Wayne and Jason Todd have just reunited Jason with his mother. Yay! Only to learn the Joker is causing trouble again. They don their identities as Batman and Robin and split up. Naturally, Robin defies direct orders not to engage the Joker alone, and to make matters worse, his own mother betrays him, as it turns out she's not as wonderful as she seemed. The Joker gives Robin the old crowbar treatment, then locks Jason and his mother in a warehouse with explosives, blowing them both up. Jason dies in the explosion, but lives long enough. His mother lives long enough to tell Batman that her son was a good boy.
Yeah. So this is an interesting one because, like, I think we're counting 427 in here because, like, 428 is the technical death issue. I think 428 is a bad comic book issue. I don't know if you agree. It's just so much caption and exposition. It has the iconic panel of Batman carrying Jason, which is great. Yeah. But besides that, I don't like it. 427, I think, is solid. Very solid. But overall, I think this is something that's, like, cooler in retrospect and in idea than in fully execution.
I kind of get where you're coming from with that. I love it, like, pretty much all the way through. I think that reading 428 just alone is boring and bad because it's basically just Batman picking through the wreckage. Yeah. I physically can't stop myself from reading it after reading 427 because I've read Jason's death a few times. Not that I want Jason to be dead. I just think it's great that he died.
That is what you're saying.
You know what? It is. I won't sugarcoat it.
Yeah.
I am such a fan of this death. I think that the emotion behind it is great. I think that the characterization behind it is great. And I think the fact that the public voted for it is phenomenal.
That's fair. I do enjoy quite a bit of 427, specifically, the Joker bit. But I just don't feel capable of, like, I don't think, like, in the iconic versus good scale, like, I don't think the level of quality of the book reaches its iconic status, if that makes sense.
I definitely get that. I do think that it has the misfortune of having one of the biggest legacies of comic book deaths. Like,
I still don't think it's bad. Like, we'll get to it with the other Robin issues that I think are, like Superman
came back, and it's like business as normal. Jason came back, and it was not business as normal. So, even though he's basically one of those few instances where it's like, oh, this character died, he stayed dead, they brought him back, and it was a big fucking deal. In-universe big fucking deal. I love this. I would put this above Gwen Stacy and Die to Hero personally, but I feel like you are not going to go so hard.
No, that's I was going to say Going to the Funeral. If you want to stick him in Die to Hero, I'd argue to put it at the bottom of Die to Hero.
But I'll put it at the bottom of Die to Hero. I'm not going to be happy about it then.
We have a lot of Die to Hero here, which I guess makes sense when we're talking about the death
our Robin rapid round.
Yes.
We're going to go in age order, actually, after Jason. So starting off with Dick, who very technically died in Forever Evil #6. Lex Luthor stops Dick's heart to disarm a bomb that would have exploded them all, because it's attached to his heart, so he has to have his heart stop to stop the bomb. But then he immediately puts a shot of adrenaline in his heart to bring him back in the next issue.
Which is why I always tell Katie Dick Grayson has not actually died. But Katie's always like, no, he has a death. I'm like, no.
He's technically died. Tim has not died. He doesn't get to be in the Dead Robins Club. But Dick has technically died.
In any case, the rough thing about this is, one, if we're looking at it as a death, it's a crappy death because he doesn't actually die. It's a terrible death. The like good and bad of this that kind of play with each other is it's such a good Batman scene, right? because of the way that he interacts with Lex Luthor here. You can see the amount that he cares about Dick. It's something that actually challenges Batman's moral code and kind of pushes him over the line, which I always enjoy. The rough thing is Dick basically plays such a backseat in his own death. We don't really get an impact moment or anything like that. Conscious. And then he's brought back immediately. So on a death level, I think it really fails. The Batman thing picks up a little bit. I feel like this is the definition of died of boredom, though.
I fully agree. Like, if he didn't have, like, such... if the impact of this wasn't so big, because the bigger thing is that his identity is revealed to the world by the crime syndicate, and so that's what makes him go undercover with Spiral, which is one of, like, my favorite runs of Dick Grayson. I think it's so fun. I might have put it in Piss on Their Grave, because it really is not good. But it is more so,
especially when you look at it as like a comic book death, because there's nothing in this that feels
Dick
iconic.
Grayson's comic book death.
Yeah.
But yeah, going down the order, we already talked about Jason, so let's go to Tim. So in Detective Comics number 940, Colonel Kane has released a fleet of drones on Gotham to try to destroy crime, but it is endangering civilians and innocents while doing so. So Tim hacks into the drones. So instead of targeting like the League of Shadows people to blow up, they're targeting him, and they'll only stop once he dies. So he gets chased by a bunch of drones. He survives that, but then the second wave comes in, and he appears to get exploded.
Yeah. This is not a death in any way, shape, or form. Like, he's revealed in the same issue to have never actually have died and just is still alive. Like, there is no... This isn't a technical death like Dick's. Nope. It's not you think it's a death for a whole issue. Like, you know, within the same issue, this isn't a death. It's not a death. The only thing that is good in this is the actual impact frame. Like, it is a cool panel. Otherwise, this is garbage.
The other, like, one nice thing I'll say about it is I am such a fan of when Steph and Bruce interact, because
I feel nothing to do with him, and you're like, this is a good bit.
Hey, it's in the aftermath of his death, and they're talking about his death. Like, I feel like of all of the Bat-Fam kids, including Jason, Stephanie is just the one who does not respect Bruce at all, and I love that for her. And so that I also enjoyed, but we're gonna piss on Tim Drake's grave.
Yeah, we're gonna piss on Tim's grave.
He didn't even get a grave.
No, he didn't even get a grave. He didn't die! It's not a death!
Yeah.
It's not a death!
It's not. I just wanted to have them all in here. But speaking of them all, and something that is actually a death,
in Batman Incorporated, death.
Number 8. That's the other reason that I decided to go in age order. I'm like, okay, I wanted to
cap end with an actual death. Yeah.
Damian is killed by his clone, while Batman is fighting Talia, while the Leviathan is invading. Jay, how'd you feel about this one?
I think the lead up is a little bit lackluster, but I really like the impact of this death.
Right?
Like, it's a really... Just the pages in general are laid out really nice, and then the impact moment of the death, which if you're watching the visual you can see, is so good. Yeah. So, yeah, I think this is a solid death, is how I feel. But,
yeah, what I really like about this death, and I don't even know if I ever actually read this run of Batman Incorporated, but I'm pretty sure Leviathan is, like, taking over children or something. And what I think is one of the biggest things with Damian's death is, like, when Jason died, he didn't look like a 12-year-old, because he wasn't a 12-year-old. When Dick died, he was in his Nightwing era, so he wasn't even... Tim looks like a teenager. Damian looks like a fucking child. Like, he's 2 feet tall and has the roundest little face. And, like, that's always the thing with Damian, is it's like, oh, you don't look like you should be an assassin, little boy.
No, DC's insistence on keeping Damian, like, 2 feet tall.
I love it, personally. But I really like how much he looks like a kid in his death, because his clone isn't, like, the same size as him. His clone is, like, beefed up and, like, 10 years older than him or something. I have vague memories of it. But so he gets impaled on the clone's sword after a decent fight. I think there were some parts of the fight that were a little confusing in terms of, like, there were just arrows coming out of nowhere at one point.
Yeah.
And Damian has some weird monologuing during the fight, where he's like, I promised my father I wouldn't kill anymore. And then he's just, like, yelling, die, die, die! And I'm like, brother, I'm confused about what you're trying to tell me. Are you self-control or are you losing? I can't tell. So I think it's fine. I'll send him flowers.
Yeah, I think it's worse than Jean Grey's.
I agree. Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
So let's go to one that I know quite well.
Yes, leaving the rapid round.
Yeah, we're leaving the rapid round. Let's talk about Hal Jordan, aka Parallax's death in Final Night number 4. When a being called the Sun Eater has extinguished the sun, Hal Jordan, now known as the villainous Parallax, uses all of his power to absorb the villain and bring back the sun's light. I'm interested to hear how you felt about this one, Katie.
So I'm a little bummed from a video making point of view. I accidentally read it's like Parallax Emerald Knight or something. It's like a one shot before this.
Yeah.
Which like gives a lot of emotional context for Hal. From a like absorbing his death point of view, I'm really glad I did. I think that it made it a lot more impactful because Final Night number 4 is part of like this event going on Final Night. So it's one of those things where like with the death of Superman, the point of the issue that we read is that Superman is dying. With, Jason, it's the same thing. This falls more into like an Elektra camp where it's like, okay, he dies and like it's very important, but also it's not the only thing going on. So like the issue is not build on being built up to this. Like a lot of the emotional connection of the issue isn't to Hal. I'm also not particularly well read in terms of Green Lantern.
Yeah.
So like the vibe of his whole Parallax thing was not something that I was like super familiar with. So I think it was a really cool death conceptually. I think that the actual I'm gonna say the impact moment, but I really mean like Hal's impact moment is really good.
Criticism.
It's such an amazing moment.
I really dislike the impact
like doing
moment.
his ring chant.
Yeah, I like him doing the oath, but I just feel like it's such a nothing burger of like the actual moment. Like there's no impact. Like he just does it and then it's like he's gone.
That's kind of what I'm saying is that when I say the impact moment, I don't mean the like
I love
like,
Hal's dialogue in this issue as a whole.
Yes.
So good. And then the aftermath I really like because you have like Batman and Superman taking different like ideas on it, which I think is really interesting. But I don't know, for like Parallax Hal Jordan is like, in terms of DC Comics lore, like one of the most powerful beings in all. Like this is a guy who can single-handedly fight the Justice League. Like it felt a little lame when it was like, Superman could probably survive this thing, but Parallax Hal Jordan can't. Like it just felt so much
Superman
like
could because his powers were gone at that point.
But like they implied that he could.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah,
so I was like, I don't understand that how Parallax Hal can't. So
I will say I think the difference was that Superman and whoever the kid was who like went in the rocket, they were going to turn on those energy absorbers, which wouldn't necessarily reset the Earth to like what it needed.
Yeah.
So they could have stopped the sun from exploding, but they couldn't have like saved the world from the ecological disaster after, which is what Parallax was really needed for.
Yeah. No, that's fair. It feels like one of those things because I feel like I often feel with comic book deaths, not like a lot of the ones on this list, but like in terms of like where it feels like they decided they wanted to kill the character and then worked backwards to the moment instead of like working to the moment and going, oh yeah, this will kill the character. This felt like that to me, where they're like, we want Parallax Hal dead, so we're gonna do this. So I still like it quite a bit. Like I'm a Green Lantern fan, obviously. Very cool Green Lantern moment. I like it. I just don't love it, if that makes sense.
Yeah. How are you feeling? I'm torn between sending flowers and going to the funeral, personally.
Yeah, that's about where I am too. I feel like based on things right now, I feel like bottom of going to the funeral.
I was going to say top of sending flowers.
I'm fine with throwing top of sending flowers. I accidentally just like scrolled on the page instead of moving this.
If he had been given more room to do his own stuff in this specific issue instead of in that prelude issue, it probably would have gone up a little higher for me. But as it stood within this issue.
Now we get to
But
jump to
now
one
something
that we
that
have
neither
the
one of
least
us,
amount of
yeah.
context. Yeah.
Jay and I have never read Y the Last Man.
Nope.
I think
Nor watched the show,
the
nor had any
yeah,
exposure.
same. From the mere title, I think I had kind of an idea of what it was about.
Yeah.
But yeah, this confirmed a bit of it for us. We're talking about the death of Ampersand in
Yes.
Y the Last Man number 60, the very last issue in the series. 60 years after the main story of Y the Last Man, Yorick is an old man, discontented with the end of his life. He is, however, happy to impart advice onto a man made from his cloned DNA. As he talks to the clone, offering prologue for the series, I'm sorry, that's epilogue for the series. I wrote prologue like a dumbass. Offering epilogue for the series, he shares the heartbreaking tale of the end of his monkey's life, the only other male mammal to survive nebulously the plague, whatever killed all the men.
Yeah.
He simply, the monkey simply grew old and grew sick, and Yorick laid him to rest in a spot that I can only assume has significance in the series.
This was the one where I was most like I thought the actual moment of the death was still emotional, but
Yeah,
it felt like
Look
the
at Monkey's
biggest one
dying.
where I was like, I am missing stuff by not reading. Like
Yeah.
I really feel like this has got to be so much better if you've read the series.
Absolutely. Like
so
it's clear
it's
that
such a tough one to
Ampersand
rank.
is right. Like as someone who didn't read the series, I'm gonna put it in died of boredom.
Yeah.
Just because and that is not an
But
indictment on
it
the
feels
death.
well written, which is why it's rough. You know,
Yeah. But it's also one of those
feels
things
good.
where he died of old age, 60 years after the events of the book.
Well, I mean,
Like
he's
it was an
poisoned.
epilogue death.
He doesn't really die of old age because the guy poisons him.
What guy poisoned him? Am I dumb?
The guy who he feeds him the poisonous grape.
Oh well, yeah, but it's because he's old and
Yeah, but like that, I thought that was like a nice little oh my god,
it
like,
was a nice little touch.
You tricked him.
I would put it above Dick though.
Yes, I agree. Sometimes it doesn't let me put it on the left, so I have to put it and then move. Yeah. But for our next little bonus round where we're gonna do a few here, we have
our Ronin Rapid Round.
Yeah, which by the way, this Wednesday we'll be talking about Last Ronin in its entirety. So
yeah,
very cool.
I cried. I don't think during. I
love this book. This is the other book in which I
get choked up during the episode.
Yeah. No.
All right, run us through it.
Definitely good. Yes. So the first one is in Last Ronin. Number 2 is the death of Raphael and kind of Karai. After Karai breaks the peace treaty between the Hamato and Foot clans and attacks the Turtles, Raph believes Splinter to be dead, and he's dead set on getting revenge and takes on the entire Foot clan by himself. After fighting his way through an army of men, he takes on Karai one-on-one. The pair's fight spills off the dock and into the water, where they're both stabbed by the other whilst fighting, and Raph is left to drown while Karai is fished out by the Foot and comatose forever. You know how I feel about this death, Katie, but I'll let you take the floor.
I mean, it's such a good. It's good. I mean, it's got good action. My big gripe with it is that Splinter is not dead, and I understand obviously y'all will get a full breakdown, but in the Last Ronin, there's only one turtle left. So in the issues, they show the deaths of the other turtles, and I just feel like Raph's felt so. Like, it felt like it wasn't in service of it. Like, he was dead. Like, I know that he puts Karai into a coma, which is, like, important for the story. But it feels a little weird for him to just, like, run off and get himself killed. You know?
I don't know. It feels exactly like Raph to me. It feels...
Right.
I love
feels
this.
In character for him to do it, but it feels weird from, like, a overhead point of view for, like, oh, yes, this one instance out of... I can only assume that Master Splinter has been beat up before. Or, like, Raph has gotten... In fact, I know he has, because it was in the Mirage, where he, like, runs off and goes angry off on his own.
Yeah.
It just feels weird that it's, like, this time, he actually dies.
I'm going to disagree. Like, to me, that's, like, if you do things enough, like, eventually it's going to end up in, if you're impulsive enough, eventually it's going to end up in your death. I feel like Raph being the first one to die, and it happening, like, well before the others, makes it feel more real than a story like conveniently killing them all off in quick succession, and I think it fits the character really well. I think it's the best impact moment of thing, and I just love the moment of like Raph fights off the entire Foot Clan. He gets the cry. He actually complete this is like the only one of the turtles who gets that moment of succeeding but failing, and then actually accidentally like sets in motion the entire book, because Karai's death leads to Hiroto, who is the main villain of the series, taking over. I love this. This is one of my favorite comic book deaths of all time. I think this is Ascended, but I have a feeling you're going to push back on that.
Oh, I don't think this one's Ascended.
I think it's fantastic.
I was going to say that I would go to the funeral.
Okay. How are we gonna land on this?
Let's see. I would like it below Jason.
I think it's
whether
better than
that's
Jason,
at the top of Go to the Funeral or the bottom of Die to Hero.
I'll put in Going for the Funeral for balancing, but I think I fully disagree with this.
Put it for balancing. Well, we have more to put out.
Yeah, no, I'm gonna put it out.
It's not like Rebirth where we're comparing to each other.
But no, I fully disagree. I think this is better than Jason's for sure. But we'll move on.
We have three more turtle deaths. Yeah.
Yeah.
To Leo. Wait, did we not put Mikey?
We did not put Mikey's on here. No.
Oh, poor Mikey. Sorry, Mikey.
Yeah. I don't know why, honestly, now that I think about it. But
because I would put his in Ascended.
His is really good. I just didn't really think about it. Because we were going with like the flashback deaths of the and then Mikey's is really good too. But in any case,
I'm also glad that you didn't, because when we read Last Ronin, I didn't know that Mikey died at the end.
What?
Before I read it, I knew pretty much everything else about Last Ronin.
Okay. I thought you meant after reading it. I'm like, I'm certain we talked about this.
We talked about it at length.
I did not understand how you. Okay. Anyway, Leo and Casey's death in issue 3. Yeah. Leo and Casey's death in number 3. Leo, Mikey, April, Casey, and Honeycutt are left alone in New York as Donnie and Splinter head to Japan to sign a peace treaty with Hiroto, Karai's son. They're ambushed by Baxter Stockman, who sends an army of Mousers after them with the intent to steal the Fugitoid. When Honeycutt reveals he will self-destruct before falling into Stockman's hands, Stockman detonates all the Mousers, killing Leo and Casey and leaving April without an arm and a leg. How are you feeling, Katie?
Okay. I have my desk is not in its normal position, so if you're on video you can't see that I have a beautiful Leo headband thing for our delayed Turtles episode. Leo is my favorite turtle. And his death was so disappointing. It was just an explosion. He didn't even get to fight, really. I was so mad. And he was there with Casey. I feel like it had so much potential to be a super rad death scene. Emotionally, still great, especially throughout the entire series. But in terms of the death itself, not the best.
Yeah. The rough thing is you've thrown me off with Raph here, because now the way that I want to structure each of the turtles' deaths is gonna force me to kind of push these lower than I want them to be.
I mean, you don't have to. With the knowledge because, that this is not your tier list.
I dislike this as Leo's death, and specifically in the context of he's fought Mousers and overwhelming amounts of Mousers many times before, and all it feels a little lame. But I still think it's a really well written and well illustrated scene, and I think it works in a bubble, if that makes sense.
I'm gonna lightly disagree with that.
And I love the image after of the
yes, that is very good.
So I don't think it's bad. I think it's disappointing, which is I was gonna probably throw it in Sending Flowers, but we'll see how.
I was gonna put it in Died of Boredom. I think that the impact of it is good.
I refuse to put this in the same tier as Dick's death because it is nowhere near as bad.
I mean, I was gonna put it at the top. I'm talking about his literal he barely gets to do anything because we have these flashback sequences, and with Raph's he gets to fight.
It's not on Dick's level though.
With
Dick's
Donnie's he gets to fight the Foot Clan. I mean, we can put it at the bottom of Sending Flowers. You can choose where to put it in Sending Flowers.
This is
I
the
just
like
think that
I would have had this up more because I think there's a difference between each of the deaths in terms of like level. But
Yeah.
we'll go here as we go into Donnie and Splinter's death. Not to bury the lead, but I think it goes in between the two that we've ranked so far. So yeah, they die in issue 4 of The Last Ronin. Oroku Hiroto lures in the Hamato clan to a false summit of peace, which is attended by Donnie and Splinter. Here he launches a large-scale attack on them. Donnie and Splinter fight through an army, but they are clearly outmanned. Splinter refuses to leave, and Donnie sacrifices himself to save his father from a barrage of arrows, allowing him time to launch a sword at Hiroto, which hits its target, but Splinter 2 falls to the arrow barrage shortly after.
See, I like this one more than Raph's, actually. Like, as I was looking back and putting my little ratings out there.
No, I hardcore disagree. I love Raph's.
I think that the action in this one is so intense, and the way that you see the, like, tide of battle shift and turn, the way that I think so much of it is with Splinter's emotionality with it, where he's, like, calling upon this bad guy to honor some sort of code that, through the years, the hundreds of years or whatever it is, the clans had honored with each other, and just being rejected in that, bid for combat. I think that it's really, really good. The scale of the battle is really great as well. I like this one a lot.
I like this one. I like Raph's more. I think the actual fight is better between Raph and Karai than this. I do like this quite a bit. Not quite on the level of Raph, but I do. I think this is solid. It's interesting because I think my slight thing with it is, one, it's a little fast. And 2, like, Donnie, like, the idea of, like, sacrificing yourself and then that sacrifice, like, immediately not being worth it is a little rough from a, storytelling perspective. Like, he sacrifices himself to save Splinter, who then immediately dies exactly how he would have died if Donnie didn't sacrifice himself. So that's a little bit rough. I still think it's very, very good, but I do like Raph's a lot more. So I don't know how you want to land on this one, but we can.
I mean, in my notes, I put this one in Die to Hero.
You see, I'm over, like, in my notes, I had Die to Hero, Raph, going to the funeral, Donnie, and then Sending Flowers, Leo. Like, that was my order of them.
Do you want to drop this right below Raph and go into the funeral?
Yeah. I think we'll do that.
Okay. Rad.
But to continue on we have one more indie book. Technically, was a DC book when this happened. But is now.
Did DC own Wildstorm when this came out through them?
Yeah.
The timeline on Wildstorm always throws me off.
Yeah.
All right.
They've owned Wildstorm for a while. They got Wildstorm in, like, the late 90s.
I believe you. Time means nothing to me. But we are talking about The Boys and the death of Robin. Huey and Robin have been together for a glorious month, but Robin didn't need more than a week to know that she had fallen in love with him. Just when she finally tells him this, though, she's hit by the A-Train, baby! Blasted to dust with nothing but her hands remaining. Or, I'm sorry, I think her body might be there in this one. No, that was the bad guy's body. Never mind. She's dust.
Yeah. Blasted by the A-Train's a little wrong. The villain's thrown through her in this.
Yeah, fair enough. It makes so much sense in a sane way.
I just figured That's
fair, because it is different than in the show.
Yes. She's
not the
not
least of which being that Huey is Scottish. Disgusting.
Yeah. In any case, let's talk about this death a little bit.
Yeah,
I like this death quite a bit. I do think the show does it a little bit better. I don't think that's a hot take.
I agree.
But
I think the show does a lot better.
I also think it's a little bit capped because, like, you don't have any investment in Robin, which
Mhm.
is, you know, a thing. And then there's also a butcher sex scene that's like intercut with it, which is
Yeah.
rough. But throwing those negatives to the side for a second, it still has that amazing shock value. It sets the tone for the book immediately really well. The impact moments, very good. And it is like A Train's personality comes across immediately and the world comes across immediately.
Yeah.
So I think for like its place in the story and the impact moment, very, very good. For the emotional stakes, down, you know?
Yeah. I feel like it's not just that I don't have an investment in Robin yet. I also don't have an investment in Huey yet.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
the fact that they, in the text, one of the few things we know is that they've only been together for a month. Like,
Yeah.
I think the impact of the death for the reader and for Huey is more so the violence of it than the, like, loss of Robin, for sure. But
yeah. The
looking
month
at
things feels like a
something
weird decision.
right? Looking at something like The Walking Dead,
The
where
idea
it
though,
can
like
be...
just to defend it for a
Yeah,
second,
go ahead.
as I think in my own, like the idea might be, and like this was always a problem that I had with the show to a little bit, that like this avoids, is just if the idea is to get Huey to a certain place in a bit, if he's been with her really long time, it's kind of unbelievable how fast that turnaround happens, you know?
Sure. I definitely get that. I do think that it makes, even if it makes Huey's character arc make more sense, it makes Robin's death worse.
Yes, I agree. I was playing
yeah.
devil's advocate
No,
like
no, for
right
sure.
there for like the bit that I think's a little better, because I always watching the show, like when he's getting with Starlight, I'm like, man, that's a little fucked up. Like your long-term girlfriend was like just ran through by a superhero.
Yeah, I think that this is not a particularly compelling death. It's also partially because I really am not a big fan of the art style of it, which I think made it even less sympathetic. Like, at least in the show, Huey is kind of a cutie. In this book, he was like, I'm like, oh, he's kind of gross looking.
That is such a horrible thing to say. You're like, I don't like this much because he's ugly.
I'm saying that he's far less sympathetic looking. Like, the guy they cast as Huey looks like a fucking puppy in the show.
You know, the guy who plays Huey's father in the show is who the design was based off of for the comic book.
Oh yeah, is that Simon Pegg?
Yeah, Simon Pegg.
Yeah,
I couldn't think of the last name. I just had Simon in my head.
I enjoy him dearly. I love Hot Fuzz. But I was gonna piss on Robin's grave. I'm not gonna lie.
Oh, I was not. I think it works so well for the story. So like, even if it's such a good world establisher, you know. I was gonna probably throw it in Sending Flowers, but yeah, I don't think it's as bad as Tim's non-death.
I mean, I was gonna put it above Tim's non-death.
I think it's better than Dick's death too.
Died.
Like, I think it's easily better than Dick's too.
I disagree, because like at least with Dick's, you have that emotional stuff with Bruce.
But Dick doesn't even die. Like, at least this is a death.
He briefly dies.
I'm gonna hard push on not being in Piss on Their Grave, because I
Can
think
we put it below ampersand?
Yeah, we'll put it below ampersand.
I cared far more about the monkey than I did about Robin.
Fair play. But let's pivot from actually one alternate evil Superman DC story to another.
Yes.
We are going to be talking about Joker's death in Injustice. This is in Injustice Gods Among Us, year 1, number 4, which we both forgot. Thought it was in issue 1, and then I read issue 1 and went to Katie. It's actually not in here. It's in issue 4.
It is fine.
But yeah, in any case, following Joker tricking Superman into killing Lois and his unborn child, Superman wants revenge. Green Lantern tries to stop Superman from confronting Joker in his angered state, but fails. Superman confronts Joker, and right in front of Batman, shoves his hand through the Joker's chest. One of the most iconic, I think, death images as well.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
This image is everywhere.
Absolutely. I mean, I have not read the Injustice books.
I have. I went into my DCUI and just saw like the red on all of the first 5 years, but I don't remember it as well as I probably should.
So I also don't know where this stands in terms of like, at this point, do we know that Superman is evil at the...
He's not evil
like,
yet.
Is this... That's what I was asking, is like, do we have a little like 5 years earlier that leads into this or something? So this is...
I don't think so.
So
I don't
this
think
is
that.
like defining moment for this character in this
Yes.
story.
Yeah.
Which makes it even better.
Yeah.
I think this is such a good death.
I agree.
Obviously the Superman of it all is very good, but the back and forth between Batman and the Joker before, when Batman is so adamant, he's like, no, Superman is good. He will not do anything. He is, going to grieve and he is going to suffer, but he is going to remain a good man because he's a good man. And then I think it's the Joker who like clocks Superman being like, yeah, he's a god pretending to be a man. Like he in the way that you're saying that the world is established so well through Robin's death, I feel like the way that the Injustice world is going to end up being is established so well through the Jokers. And oh my god, is it such a good visual impact. The Joker laughing as Superman's bloodied hand comes out.
Yeah.
Batman just like full surprised Pikachu face in the background. Oh my god, it's so good.
I fully agree. Unlike a lot of people, I absolutely love the Injustice comics. I think it's just such a good, slow to say. And I think part of that, like, you can see that already when it's in chapter 4 that, like, the death happened. Like, it is such a slow build of Superman's descent. He doesn't turn evil overnight. Even after this, he's not evil in the next issue. It's such a slow burn of seeing Superman change to the point where I buy in so much, and I buy into this moment so much for like what comes before. So I love this. I think this is fantastic.
It's really, really good.
How you feel?
I kind of want to put it in Ascended. I kind of want to put it in Die to Hero.
I feel very similarly about the Gwen Stacy death, but like the surrounding stuff's better. So maybe it is Ascended.
Like I was gonna put it at the top of Die to Hero.
I'm not against that if you want to do
let's put it at the top of Die to Hero.
Okay. I'm not against it. We can always adjust at the end of the...
Oh yeah, we'll shuffle them at the end if we need to. But it's yet again very funny to see the phrase Die to Hero right next to Superman bursting his hand through Joker's chest.
Yeah, Joker really didn't die a hero. No, this is the moment Superman died a hero.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
But speaking of Superman, we're going to talk about Batman.
I was going to say from Joker to Batman, but
what? Both work.
Yeah.
In Final Crisis number 6, Darkseid has manifested across the Earth, and the anti-life equation enables him to dominate the heroes and villains of the planet to enable his conquest. Batman, having discovered the weapon Darkseid used to kill his own son, takes on the task of killing the Conqueror in a once-in-a-lifetime defiance of his code. He shoots Darkseid, but is himself disintegrated by Omega Beams.
I really like this. I like things that challenge Batman's moral code. I've said that literally in this video already. I like that. It's something that I think is... It makes the character more interesting. I think the moment works. The dialogue between Darkseid and Batman in the build-up is great. We obviously get another iconic Superman holding a dead person, image.
Which you love to see.
Yeah, I really, really like this. I like Final Crisis outside of the Green Lanterns in it very much.
Yeah, it's so good. And I'm also such a fan of Batman being given the tools he needs to combat Justice League level threats. I'm a Batman stan, we know this. I am here for Batman punching aliens or whatever. But when you're up against Darkseid, it's like, no, Batman can't just walk up to Darkseid. But if he has a weapon that Darkseid made and used to kill Orion, it's okay. It's like, okay, I get it. Yeah. And it also is one of those things where it's like, you get why Batman has literally no other way to combat this. Why he would break his code. And it's just so well done. And I'm trying to remember what the fuck ass explanation is for him like going back in time from this.
Oh, it's I don't know. It's convoluted, but it's that is the retroactive like he goes back in time. He doesn't actually die, but not in the same issue or in the next issue, so it's not as bad as Dick and Tim.
And it reverberates for a long time, so certainly not as bad as Tim.
Yeah.
But I feel like that's also a thing of like, okay, this is a good way to bring him back. Yeah. It doesn't cheapen his death here at all.
No.
Yeah, it's really fucking good. I mean, I feel like we've been bulking Die to Hero up a lot, but I feel like this is a straight up Die to Hero.
Yeah. It's the fact that he's not actually dead compared to everybody else in Die to Hero does, I think, move him a little bit lower.
That is fair.
I think I'd put him above Jason, is my feeling.
We could put him above Jason.
And then we have like the two knights holding poses next to each other
that.
too. So, but we saved big one for last. We're going to be talking about Rorschach dying in Watchmen number 12. Ozymandias has killed countless with a giant squid monster, but in doing so, he saved the world from war. Everyone agrees that they have to keep this a secret to preserve the peace. Everyone except Rorschach, who refuses to compromise and is insistent on telling people the truth. So Dr. Manhattan must stop Rorschach from ending the peace with the truth. Rorschach ends up screaming at Dr. Manhattan to do it, and Dr. Manhattan complies, exploding Rorschach.
I mean, it's ascendant. Like, I feel no need to, kind of...
Is it the best death in comic books? It might be. Like...
Right?
It's so good!
It's hard to get around the just narrative, illustrative, thematic quality of Watchmen. Like, and this
I'm assuming we're throwing this at the very tippy top.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah. And it's not only like the death of Rorschach, it's
the culmination of the book.
Yeah, exactly. It's everything. And you really you can't beat everything.
And this is like, I talked about the problem with when you decide you want the character to die and then work backwards. This is the literal opposite, where you listen to Alan Moore, he didn't originally intend to kill Rorschach, but then when he got to that point in the story, he said there's no way this ends without Rorschach dying.
Yeah.
Because literally, just based on the story, there's no way to resolve the ending of this book with Rorschach still alive because of his character, because he's an absolutist. There is no way that he can be left alive and he's not going to tell people what happened, you know?
Exactly.
So it fits his character. It fits Dr. Manhattan's character after the arc he's went through to end him here. Mm-hmm. And then in Rorschach, like, it's just, he like, Rorschach realizes he's cognizant. He is literally yelling at Dr. Manhattan to do it because in his mind, that's like proving him right. And you have just all the other characters with their dynamics going on in the background, and it just lands perfectly.
Oh my gosh. It's so fucking good. It's just so fucking good. I, as a person, don't like Rorschach, so it's nice to see him exploded. So, like, you get a benefit there, too. No, it's truly the one to top off the list. Do we feel like making any adjustments as we look at this?
Other than things that we, like, disagreed and compromised on, I'm not sure there's anything I really want to move.
The one that strikes me as I kind of look down the list is be like, oh, it feels a little out of place, maybe. I feel like the death of Superman might be a little too high.
You think? Where would you?
It's good.
Like too high, fully tier wise, or in the pecking order there?
Maybe both. Like.
Ooh. So you're thinking that?
I was thinking below the Turtles.
I feel like it's. I think the rough thing is, like, I definitely, like, I feel the same way about Jason's death. Like, I feel very similarly about Superman and Jason's death.
See, Jason's really gets me, but I obviously have.
I feel like it's just because, like, I feel like if you had the same emotional investment in Superman, that would get you just because I feel like they're so similar in, like.
No, that's what I'm saying. Is like I'm very much coming at it from a incredibly biased point of view with Jason. But I would argue that you are also doing that with Raph.
Yes, but we compromised on Raph.
What if we move Raph up above Jason in Die to Hero?
It feels rough to have, like, Superman that much lower than Jason, but I'll acquiesce.
I disagree.
You disagree because you care about Jason more than Superman.
I like Superman. I go to town. The amount of people in my life who I defend Superman to. I feel
Clark. Like the Superman issue has, like, just that good action. It has the great fallout. all the fallout of Jason is intercut with all of this shitty exposition.
And I guess that's
the other thing I'm gonna throw
really
out as I look at this now is I think Dick should move down to piss on their grave.
I really like the Batman stuff in there.
But that's not really like his death, you know? Like, it's just, you know...
The way he interacts with
death.
Bruce.
It's a shitty death, though. Like, as a death. If you want to leave it there, we can leave it there. But I think...
I don't think he deserves to be pissed on.
That's just because you don't think Dick
as someone who read Forever Evil without knowing that Dick was going to come back, it felt like a death at the time.
We shall.
Do we think we're in our final position?
Yeah. So I'll start us off.
Do you want to read the entire thing off, just because it's a little harder to make out than the Rebirth titles?
Yeah, I think I've got it though. In Ascended, we have Dr. Manhattan. We have Glenn.
Exploding Rorschach, to be clear.
Oh yeah. Sorry, I just saw the image. You're right. It is harder with the image because I'm just reading out what I'm seeing. We have Watchmen, where Rorschach is exploded. We have Walking Dead 100, where doing the issues is going to screw me over eventually.
You should not try to do the issues.
Yeah, where Glenn dies. We have Judith and Laurie ending off Ascended. Are we flipping or are we doing 3-3 here? Or
you know what? I believe in myself. All right. In Die to Hero, we have Superman killing the Joker. We have the death of Gwen Stacy. We have the death of Barry Allen. We have the death of Batman. We have Raphael's death in The Last Ronin. We have the death of Jason Todd.
Then in Going to the Funeral, we have the death of Splinter and Donatello. We have the death of Superman. We have the death of Supergirl. And we have the death of Elektra.
In Sending Flowers, we have Hal Jordan / Parallax. We've got Jean Grey in New X-Men. We've got Damian Wayne. And we've got my boy Leo.
Right? And Casey. Yeah.
And Casey, yeah.
In Died of Boredom, we have Ambersand, we have Robin, and we have Dick Grayson.
And in Piss on Their Grave, we have Timothy Drake, which, aside from his bad death, just tracks for me and Jay.
Yeah, we really aren't big Tim Drake fans. But in any case, if there are more deaths that you feel like should have been on this list that we missed out, let us know. If we get enough, maybe we'll do a part 2 and slap more on here. Or if there's anything else you want to see us do a tier list on. I really enjoy the tier list videos.
They are fun and dumb.
Yeah, even though we disagree quite a bit sometimes, which is very funny.
That's why they're fun.
Yes. But yeah, we'll have our normal video coming up on Wednesday. That's going to be
keep an eye out for our full breakdown of The Last Ronin.
Yes.
And we'll also have our interview with Lewis Southard, I believe. Right?
Yes, that is correct.
Yeah. Of Comics Are Dying, the comic. And here's Seeking Villain and Midnight Western Theater. I'm sorry, Villain Seeking Hero. I'm a dummy.
Yeah, I didn't hear what you said the first time. So, that is perfect. But yeah, so we hope to see you next week. Comic
Geeks.